Welcome to Inside Auto Podcast, where we feature everyone and anyone you'd want to talk to in and out of the automotive industry.
Ilana Shabtai here, host of Inside Auto Podcast, where we interview top dealers, GMs, marketers, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders in and out of the automotive industry. And before we introduce today's guest, this episode is sponsored by AutoLeadstar.com. AutoLeadstar is automotive's first and leading customer data and experience platform, CDXP. Top dealers invest in CDXPs to unify dealership data sources, automatically create one-to-one customized journeys, and execute omni-channel shopping experiences. Wonderful. So today we have Yaron Saghiv joining us on the podcast. Yaron, how are you?
Great to be here.
Yes, and don't be deceived. He is not in Israel. He's actually in New Jersey, a recent move. We'll talk about that. Yaron is a growth hacking expert and entrepreneur with over 14 years of experience in both B2B and B2C startups in Israel, UK, Singapore, and he's now in the US. These days, he is the chief marketer and part of the senior executive team leading UVeye's efforts to disrupt and automate the vehicle scanning industry using AI and working with world-class car manufacturers like Volvo and Toyota. In the last several years, he led talks, workshops, and speeches around growth hacking, based on products' APIs, public relations stunts, and affiliation methods. Prior to this, he also co-founded and led several ventures. So really seasoned entrepreneur. Again, thank you for joining us today. Excited to hear a little bit about your experience.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's great to be here. You mentioned quite a lot of, I would say, more B2C kind of experience, but a very different world today in automotive and B2B. So, but yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. And it's also just, I bias, but love seeing Israel innovation into the automotive space that we're in. So excited to have you on here. Can you talk a little bit about how you did get into automotive? I really like to hear this story from people on the podcast because everyone has such interesting paths into automotive. And then we kind of all get stuck in automotive because we end up loving it. So I would love to know your way in.
So it's not only my way, it's all of the UVeye kind of team or journey, because we started a bit from a different place. Around 2016, the company was formed, and it was kind of built to fulfill a very basic challenge or need, which is essentially replacing or doing a better job than a guard with a mirror that comes in and checks below your car for bombs if you enter an embassy or an airport or a seaport or a sensitive facility. So we started from a kind of a very different market, which is homeland security, working with construction companies and government tenders and those kind of things. When we formed a scanner that you just put on the ground, you drive your vehicle above it, and it can tell you anything that is suspicious below your vehicle, right? And what happened with us is that we started going to trade shows and we started showing this. It was selling from day one with these security clients. And just, because in Israel, there's so many OEs, so many OEMs that have innovation labs and EcoMotion and other kind of events. They just came and saw us, and led by Amir, and who was CEO, and Dudu was our chief strategy officer back then. We just started getting interest from manufacturers saying, could you put this in our plant and start scanning vehicles for mechanical and safety issues? And so somehow the way just led us into it, and seeing what we can do with computer vision and scanning a vehicle all around and telling you anything you need to know about it with hardware that we create. And that's kind of how we got into automotive, basically.
That's so crazy. We have a similar story in a different realm, but also we were outside of automotive. Someone saw our platform, said you should get into automotive. It's interesting how that works out. But have you totally left the homeland security industry and you're solely focused on automotive now?
So the main focus is automotive. We have a bit of security clients that still use our product almost off the shelf. But yeah, the main strategic focus for a few years is automotive for sure.
So when that switch happened, how did you guys handle, the Israeli car market, it's completely different than the American car market. I mean, here, I don't know many people that even buy their cars from car dealerships here in Israel. So was that but I at least was born in the States and understand it, but was that a complete shock, or were you familiar with it? What was that process like?
It was a bit of a shock. I actually remember first time I came to the United States, to Ohio, a couple of years back. and enter the car dealership. And I got back to Israel to the rest of the team and say like, guys, you don't understand it. It's like it's a second hand plus service plus Starbucks plus
Let's start.
whatever plus waiting room, and it's like whoa, it's like it's like an experience. It's not like what we're used to, and yeah, so it was a big transition, and it took us quite a while, but it we had a few stages. It started from the more classic relationship with OEMs and kind of innovation labs. And then gradually we just understood that we want to leverage our technology in the mass market, which is dealerships, auctions, and fleets. And
Yeah.
and we did our homework. We got good
Yeah.
US, staff to join us, and we learned from them a lot. And nothing beats being on the ground, and that's why myself, the CEO Amir, and David, as the chief strategy officer, the three of us moved last year to the United States, right? So then we put our money where our mouth is, right?
Yeah. And when you just had some press about that. So congratulations on the move. I think it's the right move. I also made a small move for Auto Lead Star, so I get it. There's nothing like being in the market, that is for sure. And then, so you talked a lot about how the OEMs were interested in it, the manufacturers were interested. So now you go direct to manufacturer and direct to dealers as well.
Yeah, so it's an interesting kind of place we're at. So on one hand, we made a lot of noise in the industry. So people are understanding that using visual aids at the service lane or for auctions or for used cars eventually touches the customer in a much better customer experience. So on one hand, we have the direct dealers that are approaching us, or we approach. We have a couple of massive auction networks, which some will be publicized soon, that have been with us for quite a while, and then with fleets the same. So on one hand, we have got that kind of B2B relationship with dealers and smaller facilities. But what happened is that we got on the radar of the North American OEM kind of offices, whether it's Volvo Cars USA or General Motors, and they kind of said, all right, there's a much bigger play here, and we are interested in this customer experience, and we're interested in these kind of tools for all of our dealership network. So they use their own incentives and kind of programs to help us, make it easier for their dealers to use us, basically, or to get on board.
Yeah. And then just based on what you've known about automotive, what you're reading about, whether it touches UVeye or it's a different realm, what are some of the challenges that you think we're going to see as an industry in 2023? Like, do you feel like the chip shortage is going to, continue? Is there going to be something else? I mean, I don't know. We can only predict, but I would love to know what you're seeing or what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think there's a few very objective trends that are happening, whether it's, you mentioned the chip shortage or COVID, that a lot of the manufacturers just stopped manufacturing cars. So you feel it in the US. I don't know, it's now in Israel, but when you want to buy
Are you
until
kidding?
now,
I've been waiting for my Hyundai 5 Ionic EV, okay,
yeah, yeah.
for 10 months. It still has not been delivered to me.
That's pretty impressive you're on the list, that you made the list in Israel, but like
Oh yeah, I went to a real dealership, but this was a while ago. Yeah,
yeah.
but we definitely feel it here, but again, not as much, only because most people don't do that. Most people are on secondhand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, which is different, like in a lot of countries, but obviously the US being the main market, it's done in a very uh, traditional way, right? Of a
Yeah.
car dealer, and you buy a new car, then you come with your warranty and get serviced, or maybe you buy, you trade in and get another one. So, yeah, you definitely feel the car shortage here, whether it's the prices of secondhand, whether it's the backlogs for new cars. So that's something that's going to be with us for a while. I think that the other trend that we're seeing that is related to EVs and other kind of trends, but it's like Tesla kind of led the way of selling direct to consumer. So a lot of manufacturers want that relationship directly with the consumer, whether it's in selling secondhand cars, like GM have launched Car Bravo.
Yeah.
There's other kind of services that OEMs want to provide, whether it's fetching your car, bringing your car, servicing your car for you. So almost to use the dealership in a different way as kind of a middleman, so called. So I think that trend is, um, you know, it's making dealers think like, okay, what could we do to still be relevant, and what could we do to provide the best customer experience? So I think that kind of trend of how does that balance between the OEM and the dealer, and still, and there's definitely a place for it. I mean, dealers have have got such a significant kind of impact on the relationship, and they've done so much for this industry. So there needs to be a balance that will take time to figure out of how does all of this happen, basically.
Yeah. And actually, you mentioned EVs. I'm just wondering, does that affect how UVE works? Like,
UV
does your UV? I told you. I told you I was going to mess it up. UVI. Um,
exactly.
does it affect the way it works? Do you have to change the system? Is there any kind of like programmatic difference to UVI?
No, I mean, in the end of the day, what we do is we provide, pieces of equipment, of technology, which is essentially cameras and
Yeah,
sensors and lighting. We install it on the ground. It could be at a manufacturing plant, it could be at a
got
fleet depot, and it could be at a dealership service lane. Uh, there's different relationships with different customers, but eventually, it's a very straightforward kind of experience. What you see is what you get. You drive the car through it, and it tells you
it.
anything
So it
that's
doesn't matter.
externally
Okay.
wrong with it. Yeah,
Okay. Cool.
exactly.
Okay, and you mentioned Tesla, not me. So let's talk about this award that you guys just got, and maybe you'll get to meet Elon Musk, which is everyone's dream, objectively, of course.
I'll tell you next week. Yeah.
Yeah, tell me next week. So UVI just won an actually pretty big deal, the Automotive News All-Star Award. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about that. It was announced just on Monday, so pretty new news. And you mentioned you're going to be going up to Detroit next week to accept the award, and I'm sure there'll be some kind of ceremony. And again, maybe Mr. Musk will be there. So you got to come back on the podcast and tell us how that is when you meet him.
I promise I will do. Yeah, no, it's really really humbling, I would say, because basically 2 days ago it was announced that Amir, the CEO, is gonna accept an award for being the fixed op vendor of the year,
Amazing.
selected by Automotive News. And what's really impressive about this award, first of all, we had a really crazy year, like really intense. Started with launching a new product which is called Atlas Light, which is the exterior kind of arc that's modular for a dealership, followed by an ADA, which is a big hit for us. And then Volvo Cars announced they're going to do a national program with us. And then
Amazing.
in June, General Motors announced that they've invested in us and they're also rolling us out as a national program to eventually equip most of their dealerships with our technology. So this award kind of is a very sweet kind of stamp for this year for everything we've done, and all the sacrifice that the team has done and worked very hard. And I'm sure from your end also, managing a cross continent kind of team is not easy, and people really work hard to support all of these efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very prestigious award. I mean, Automotive News are you know traditionally one of the most impressive publications in the automotive world. It's completely editorial. So what's any kind of marketing stunts, editorial kind of fees, or even nominating ourselves?
Deserved. That's amazing.
Yeah. So
That's
it's
awesome.
really, really humbling, I have to say.
Yeah, that's a really big deal. Congratulations. It's
Thank you.
great. And that's for 2022, or do they do it kind of for 2020,
No, it's
2022?
for 2022. It's for 2022. So it's for the last year. They picked 40 people. You mentioned Elon Musk and some, the CEO of CarMax, which is one of our investors,
Oh,
uh,
great.
uh, and quite a few other, VPs and C levels from really impressive companies out there. So it's really honoring to be on the same list with them.
That's amazing. Awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys are doing really good things. You will be at NADA. I'll finally get to meet you in person, so I'm looking forward to that myself. Do you know the booth number offhand?
Now you tackled me with a question that I don't know offhand,
Yeah, right there.
but
Anyway,
you can write it later on. Yeah.
yeah, we'll write it out in the show notes. And I know it's really big, so we won't be able to miss you, right? You guys have a big space there. So that's where people can find you. Any other last thoughts for our listeners today?
No, just thanks for the Firgun, and
Yeah.
obviously great to be on this podcast and meet you again. And yeah, just maybe a shout out to promote to get more Israelis to join the U.S. aftermarket kind of automotive field. There's a lot of space and it's exciting, and we'd love to see more with us.
Yeah, I second that. That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Yaron.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
right.
great. For those listening, this is InsideAutoPodcast.com. Inside Auto Podcast, you can find us on InsideAutoPodcast.com and all your favorite podcast streaming outlets. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for listening to Inside Auto Podcast. Check out our other episodes with top entrepreneurs and industry leaders.